She's like kind of like honking, trying to get our attention. And I look, and she's like, "Hey, do you speak English?"
We were on the topic of like when someone, if you were in a group of friends or people you've never met before, and you ask the question, what do you do? Like, do you like that question, and why? Or do you not like that question and why?
What was the question?
What do you do?
What's your occupation?
Oh, what do I do? Okay, sorry, I was setting a timer.
So what do you do?
I work for iHeartMedia in marketing and sales. I'm sorry, I'm confused.
Do you like that question? How does it make you feel?
Do I like? I mean, I feel like that's a pretty standard question that most people are going to ask. Is that something that's offensive to people?
I'm just getting opinions right now.
I'm like,
I think
so.
How does it make you feel like a carrier?
Yeah, so earlier I said, he asked the question, and I was like, I hate that question because people assume a lot of things about me, and my day job really has nothing to do with what I do outside of work.
Pause, take your Coke off the table, just because it's a brand thing.
So good.
Also, can I ask a question? Are you asking this question for the sake of the discussion, or are you wondering how
We're
it
literally
feels?
starting discussion.
Okay, I thought you were wondering because like you're gonna ask people on the street.
All right, everybody.
What do you think of this?
Started a discussion. Yeah.
It might be worth the discussion.
That's what the change of holding it. She's like,
Yeah, wait, did you say what's
Yes.
Yes, we're like discussion. I was so confused.
discussing
What was
now.
going on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, so continue. You can start before you hate that question.
I hate that question, yeah, because my day job has really nothing to do with who I am outside of my job and my interests and my desires, and like I work to live, not vice versa, so I don't invest a lot of like passion, energy into my job, but I do for the things that I do outside of my job.
Okay. Do you feel like people make incorrect inferences about you
Oh, yeah,
because
for
of what
sure.
you do?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. What are some of those?
Oh, I mean, I'm an investment banking attorney, so like, I don't know that I'm not creative in any way, shape, or form. Okay, some of the assumptions are correct. So not the creative thing. I am very creative, but like that I'm argumentative, that I'm opinionated, that I'm strong-headed. Like all those things are right. but then there's a whole class of things where they're just totally off. Like, I mean, outside of work, I lead worship, I sing, like I paint, I love cooking. Like, if I could pick anything to do in the world, it would probably be like to be a chef or something, like that.
Yeah.
But all of the things that I like are really hard to do and make a living doing. So like, this was easier for me. So
Yeah.
I chose to do
I feel
that.
like everything that you said that they were correct about are just normal human traits. So like
It might be a little more
opinionated. I think everybody's
pronounced
pretty
for me.
opinionated, but some people are more vocal about it than others. I think it's pretty normal.
Somebody else feel like they get kind of stereotyped because of what they do for their job?
In a positive way.
Yeah.
Possibly, there you go. What do
Oh, there you go.
well, literally everyone. I hate the question because I don't like what I do at all, and I took it as a job. And it's like I work in industrial supply, and it's basically I work on the vending machines that help them track their inventory and all that kind of stuff. It has nothing to do with who I am at all either. Like I would rather be creative. I would rather be like in my element, and that's what I'm trying to figure out right now how to do in my own life anyway, is to go away from that and do something I really love to do and learn how to like make money that way and make a living that way. But yeah, I hate that question too because I'm like, I don't really care.
What do you want to do?
Honestly, I love music, I love travel, and I love anything kind of creative. I'm trying to figure out how to like encompass that. Maybe Dylan will teach me,
We can start
how to do.
You just need 3 people.
3 people.
Yeah.
3 people. Let's do it.
You can
I'm down.
Wow, that's crazy. Oh, guitar. Oh my gosh.
Every
do it.
international plays already sing.
That's
Most
drums.
people at this table play and sing.
So I have a question. So we were just talking about jobs, and when you meet people, generally you try to connect with them and understand things about them. So I feel like we easily categorize people into stereotypes because we're trying to connect. So preferably, I guess for you guys, when people first meet you, how would you want them to get to know you, or what questions would you want to be asked?
Oh.
It's hard.
I know, right? Is this a Miss America thing?
It's hard because that standard question, what do you do?
This is how I would enjoy an interaction. First, I would start off with someone's name, like, how are you? You know? Let's have an interaction. This is like on-job training right here for all you guys, okay?
I'm nervous.
Like, hey, Steven, how are you, man?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Oh, wait, hold on. I did that wrong. Hey, I'm Kel. Your name?
What's up, man? Steven.
Steven? Cool, man. Awesome. So let's pretend like we're at like church or something, okay?
Okay.
So like, dude, what brought you to how long you been at Crosspoint? Like, how long you been coming?
3 years. What about you?
Dude, I've been coming for like 3 years too.
Awesome, man.
Sweet, dude.
We've never met.
No, dude, awesome. Well, so like, then what do you do? Hold on.
So what do you do for a living?
No. I wouldn't go there. I wouldn't go there either. So I would go probably like,
Yeah.
Just ask me anything.
Maybe the question we need to ask is, what can we say differently?
Yeah. Well, we can go from there and be like, we talk about Crosspoint. Cool. Like, what do you do for fun?
What's your passion? Yeah. So, but that's basically.
Do you volunteer here at Crosspoint?
Yes.
What do you do at Crosspoint? Where do you volunteer?
I don't actually.
No, I know, but like,
I volunteer on Saturdays helping with the food drive.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So like, you married or anything?
Yeah. I am. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So like, what do you guys like to do for fun around town?
We like to go to Nashville, the greatest place on earth.
Okay.
And what about you? Like the way the way I connect with people is instead of asking what they do for a living, ask why they're doing it.
Well, I would go like, so how long have you lived in Nashville?
Right. So I would say 20 years.
20 years?
Yeah.
Cool. What brought you here to Nashville?
My parents.
Your parents did?
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
What?
What do you mean by that?
Where are you from?
Where are you from? Yeah. Where'd you?
Oh, from Louisiana.
Louisiana?
Yeah.
Louisiana.
Louisiana.
There you go.
I'm from Louisiana.
And then your parents brought you here?
Yeah. My dad traveled for work, so I just came here to stay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So like that interaction right there, it didn't really go into like what he did for his career, but I know a lot about his background already. Like I know how long he's been at Crosspoint. I know that he's married. I know that he used to live out of state in Louisiana, and I know his parents brought him here. And it still had nothing to do about his career. But I got to know Steven a little bit about his background, what he likes to do for fun, and got to know him on that level. It's not deep, but it's still there. It's still judging him from the question of what do you do for work? That should never be, in my opinion, that should never be anybody's first question, because I feel if somebody asks me what I do for work, they're kind of sizing me up right then. If like, do you guys want to continue this relationship? Like, you know, oh, you do real estate? Well, I work at Vanderbilt in IT, you know, so we don't really have anything in common. Great. So next, something like that. So, you know, when you ask somebody, and I'm sure it wasn't intentional because like Corey said, it's one of those questions that people just like ask right off the bat that is common people just ask like, what do you do? But I can see where he was coming from, because it wasn't like this. He knows that I do worship at Crosspoint because that's what we do. But you know, as he was crossing the street and he saw me pull up, he just looks in the car, he's like, man, what do you do? So what do you do? That was a random question. It just came out of nowhere. Like, I work at Vanderbilt. You know, great. See, like, why do you care? You know, it's just, why did that all of a sudden matter to you, what I did for work?
Right.
You know?
What if you follow up the question, though? Maybe it's not the question that's the problem. It's just that it's the end of the conversation once you ask that question. What if you ask, like, what do you do? And then you follow it up with, well, what would you want to do if you could do anything?
Yeah.
Is that your dream job? Yeah.
And what we were saying is like, so what are you passionate about?
Yeah,
that's a great.
That is a great question.
And that'll
too.
lead into so many different avenues.
So
And that's not a question people normally get asked either. So
It
they're
isn't.
Like, well,
But that would throw someone off and make them think like.
What are your fantasies?
But then also it's like, I see where that could be a great question, but is that also insulting too? Because if you're saying like what you did and then ask them immediately like,
are you passionate?
is that really what you want to do? Like, what are you passionate about?
So you have to phrase it carefully.
Yeah.
Like, oh, is that
That's
Like,
okay.
is that your ideal? Like, is that what you're, you know, if you could do anything, would it be that?
Yeah.
Switching gears a little bit, who has a really good story of like a poor interaction that resulted from a stereotype? Bless, I know you have one from recently. I want you to share it from when we were filming that day
New camera guy.
on Broadway. Well, Dill, you can film him while
Man, I didn't
he's...
even shave my face. Yeah, so recently I had an interaction, actually while we were filming for Us National. It was my first time like with the group, so I was super excited. Excited to just get out and get in that creative space. Dylan and I were riding in my Jeep, had the doors off. I mean, it's a pretty nice looking Jeep. And we were driving down Broadway, and we're stopped at this red light, I believe. And there's two ladies in the car, older, you know, white, kind of on the older side. Myself and Dylan were just like, you know, filming outside the windows, like just jamming out to some music, you know, conversating. And this lady asks, she's like, kind of like honking, trying to get our attention. And I look, and she's like, hey, do you speak English?
Oh.
And I was like, are you serious? Like, did you just ask me that?
Wait,
Like,
Dylan, or say it how she said it though. He does it well.
Oh my gosh. So it was.
Point the camera at yourself.
He has a camera. So it was. The question was ironic because it was said like, "Hey, do you speak English?" It was like, "Hi." It was just like, it wasn't even like all the way there, but I can't really say that because all my family's Southern and stuff. But she asked and was like, "Hey, where's this hotel, et cetera, where's the nearest motel?" And then he said, "What?" And she goes, "Do you speak English?" And he goes, "Did you just ask me if I speak English?" She goes, "Yeah, well, most of you don't, so."
Wait, she said that?
Yeah, she said, "Well, most of you don't."
yeah,
So I was just wondering.
yeah, after she had asked, like, whether or not I spoke English, I was floored. Like, I'd never experienced, like, racism in my entire life. And most of my time was spent in the Army, so it's a very diverse group anyway, where everybody just kind of accepts everybody because you're all working towards one goal, right? You all lean on each other for things. So racism, like, I'd never experienced that. I grew up in California, a pretty diverse area too. Never have I ever experienced. That was the first time I've ever experienced racism, and I couldn't believe like, chills are going through my body right now just thinking about it, because for one, it put me on a level of, you know, what I had always heard and never actually experienced. And I'll tell you what, it is the most disgusting feeling I've ever felt in my life. For somebody to just like completely, I almost felt like I didn't even belong for a second, because I was like, damn, is it really that like crazy? Like, do I belong here? Like, seriously, like, no kidding. Like, I questioned what I was doing, where I had moved, because Tennessee had such a great impact on me when I had served here in the military. And it was a decision to come back here because of the impact that it had on me. Coming back and experiencing that for that quick moment made me almost second guess still being here. Wow. And it put me on a level of just like, all my friends, like, I have a very diverse group of friends. I have black friends, I have Hispanic friends, I have white friends. And I'd always heard them like talk about it, and to be able to experience that, and now like just really gave me a newfound like perspective and just like appreciation of just like, you know, the hurt and it, like, you know, the suffering that they had been through, and the disgust, and like, just, oh man, like, I'm telling you, like, it's super, like, I was almost like thinking about it back at home, like, I was embarrassed for that lady. I was like, obviously got to be ashamed of yourself. Like, are you kidding me? Like, oh man, it was just crazy, man.
You grew up in California,
right?
Yeah, and so I'm from Florida, and so we had talked about the differences in demographics. Just in Florida, it's more common to hear Spanish than English. You know, we have mixed friends, black friends, Asian. I mean, there's a lot of diversity, but living in the bubble that is downtown Nashville, you really don't see that as much. And we kind of talked last week about how oftentimes stereotypes seem to stem from just people being ignorant, people not knowing about things. So in that case, like, I would think that's probably some lady who's from the backwoods Tennessee, who's, you know, lives in a town of 300 people and they've never seen anything other than white people or whatever. Or maybe it's people have never seen anything other than black people, so they don't know about how white people think or whatever. So often I feel like stereotyping really stems from just not knowing, just being ignorant to, you know, who people really are and how things really are. And maybe that's, you know, somebody's fault, maybe it's not. It's not right either way, but yeah.
I think what bothered me the most though is after like I was just like, are you kidding me? They almost just kind of laughed it off.
Oh man.
And it was almost like that was the reaction they were hoping to get, or they were trying to like get me to react, you know, in a negative way. Instead, like I almost feel embarrassed for the way I reacted, but then I'm like, you know what? I didn't give in to what they had wanted and the reaction that they wanted, because I looked at Dylan and I was just like, dude, are you kidding me? Like, did they really just ask me that? Like, but they didn't know that, you know? I just kind of like put my head forward, talked to him, and just ignored him from that point forward. Now, was that the right thing to do? I don't know. I felt embarrassed. I felt like I should have stood up for myself for a second, because I've worked for everything I have. Like, you know, my family, yes, they may have not all like been born here. Like, you know, I'm sure like it stems from like Mexico and stuff like that, and my ancestry and stuff. But like, dude, like I'm here now, and like my family is here now, and like we've made our mark. Like I served this country honorably. I have had friends who have sacrificed their lives. Like, dude, I've done more than people who are born and raised here, and that doesn't make me better than you, but I'm not gonna seriously like mistreat you and judge you and stereotype you. Like, I just wish everybody had that same outlook, you know? Right. Because for somebody who has like, you know, sacrificed a lot, like, I don't know, I feel like I didn't deserve that, but I'm not gonna sit here and like, you know, continue to lose sleep over it. And to be honest, this is the first time I'm talking about it since the incident happened.
Wow.
So, I appreciate it.
I think that what you did was the correct thing to do. Like you didn't engage, you didn't do anything. Like she wanted that reaction and you didn't give it to her. But you know in your heart, like everything that you did for this country and for like your family and what your family did. So I think if you would have went into trying to defend yourself, it wouldn't have went anywhere. Mm-hmm. Like she would have like, okay, you just somebody just trying to talk about like your sorrows or whatever. Right. So that bothers me. Like that's what we deal with on a daily basis, you know, and like for you to just experience that just in like a second and the feeling that happened, like that bothers me. Like I'm very defensive when it comes to that stuff, so I probably wouldn't have been very nice about everything. But like, I mean, you took the high road, and I appreciate you for that.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate that, like hearing that, because for a second, like I said, like I think it was just such like a shock to me that I didn't really know how to react, you know? And for somebody who's experienced that multiple times throughout their life, like I'm sure that gets frustrating, and I'm sure like again, like it continues to like question like you know what you're doing here. Like, hey, am I in the right place? Hey, am I accepted here? Or am I just, you know, walking around being judged the entire time? And it's a disgusting feeling, and nobody should ever have to experience that. And like I said, I have a newfound, like, you know, respect and like, you know, outlook on just, you know, racism and just what my friends, you know, of other ethnicities go through, like, you know, on a daily basis in their life. So. Yeah.
And I think that's the great thing about us, Nash, too, is we were all, or a couple of us were together right after that, and he told us about it, and our reactions were all the same as his. We were like, that's disgusting. Like, nobody should ever be treated that way. You know, and we vehemently disagreed with what she said. So I think with stereotyping, there's always going to be somebody who acts a certain way of this. And I talked about this a little bit in my one-on-one, but there is some truth to stereotypes. Like, nobody wants to say that, but stereotypes stem from a place, so it means that somebody, one person, sometime, somewhere was that way, and that stereotype stuck for whatever reason. But the important thing about them is that not everybody is that way, and that's the issue, right? Mm-hmm. Like, because those white women acted that way, that doesn't mean that every white lady from, you know, small town Tennessee is racist. You know, I think that's the problem in interactions like that, is because she made Bloss feel horrible because of who she is, but that doesn't mean that everybody is that way.
And then you also have to come from a place too where it's also it's perspective as well, right? Like Corey was saying, she may not be a racist person, and you know, and I, who's to say that she is, but, you know, kind of like Dylan, for instance. Dylan likes to ask a lot of questions, right? And sometimes those questions can come off as like, if he had said them to anyone else, they would come off as offensive. But really, should those questions be coming off as offensive, or should they be a conversation starter because he wants to learn, you know, how that other race like feels about that issue? And I think that that's awesome. Mm-hmm. Like, if more people were like that, and people were, you know, get off their table and stop being so whatever about these questions, then the world would be so much better, I feel, because people would actually talk about things.
And that's what I meant to say when I started to say, like, that's the great thing about us, Nash, is because we can sit down and have these types of conversations and get viewpoints from every different background and stuff like that. Betsy, I want to touch on, so your child is mixed, yes. Have you experienced any type of stereotyping with your relationship with your ex or anything like that?
Well, I have a lot with my parents.
Oh, yeah?
And my grandmother. When I first got pregnant, I didn't tell my parents that he was black, and then we were walking into one of my like first doctor's appointments, and I told my mom, and my mom like freaked out and was like, made this huge deal about it, and said that like me telling her was like dropping a bomb on her, and like just overreacted like completely and made this huge deal about like race. And then my grandmother is like emailed all my, and this was recently, like after I had my son, emailed all my like great aunts and stuff, and started like literally the first sentence was Brian is black. Like that was the first sentence. And so, and of course like me, like obviously I have like no issues with it, and I'm like that, like that's the father of my child. Like, and he's not like literally, he's probably one of the best men that I know, but like, and for me, I have to like take a step back and like remember, because like me and my mom basically like grew up in the same environment. Like we went to the same high school, and like she went there in the 70s and 80s, and like when she was going through, there was like one black person that went there, and it was like all predominantly white. And then my grandmother grew up in like the deep South, and so like for them, like that shit, like not that it's okay, but like race is like, it's just viewed differently. Mm-hmm. And so like
it's a lack of knowledge,
right? And so, and like to me, like it's not a huge deal, and then but at the same time, like it is, because it's like you try to like explain to them and help them understand, and it's like they just don't care. Mm-hmm. Or it's maybe they do care, but it's just the understanding is just like completely different. And then it's like, and then there's like the issue of like having to even like explain to my child like you're half white, but like you're still mixed, so you're still going to have to like experience things that like even I don't experience. And so I don't know, it's just like that. I mean, that's like the biggest thing is like, but because no one else really cares. Mm-hmm. Just because I don't like the people I associate with, and I think it's like our generation too, but like the people I associate with like don't see race and don't see like color, because I mean it doesn't matter. Like if you treat people well and if you like love them well, there's no reason to like judge them based off their skin color. It's like the whole thing's just like really unfortunate, because that's not who he is, that's not who like other people are, and then it's just like a lack of self-awareness and a lack of like knowledge of like, you know, the stereotypes that you have, or like the prejudice that you have against other people.
So is your mother and your grandmother active in his life, or?
Yeah, I mean, I live with my parents, and my parents like are really excited about, you know, him being there. Yeah. But like in the back, it's more like now they've accepted it now, but like it's more in the back of my head, it's like, do they really care? Or like, and even like with Brian, he's the father of my child, but even like in the back of our heads, it's like, is this like genuine, or are they being fake, or like is there like an ulterior motive, like what's going on? But yeah.
Well, hopefully he's the little miracle that kind of gets them out of their old ways of living and doing things.
Yeah.
He could be the thing that breaks that and makes them not see the race anymore.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's what it is.
Yeah, I think that's how it will be, but.
What I've noticed a lot about people, just kind of as a general rule, is people are really uncomfortable with things they don't understand. So, like in this case, where your grandparents or whoever grew up with only white people, they didn't see interracial relationships, so they don't understand it. They're uncomfortable with it because they don't get it. So they shy away from it and they think it's wrong. Like my best friend is gay, and he experienced that a lot, where he's like, well, I just don't get why people like, because some people are still a little adverse to it. And I tried to like figure that out because I couldn't understand that. I was like, why are people weird about that? And I was like, you know what, Pete, I think a lot of people just like, especially, you know, our parents or grandparents, they didn't see that growing up. It wasn't natural, or it wasn't typical for a gay couple to walk out in the open and kiss or hug or whatever. So they haven't seen that before. So I'm like, you know, as society becomes more comfortable with it and gay marriage is legal and that's awesome, whatever, I was like, I think that will become less and less as people just get used to seeing that more. But I think everybody's uncomfortable with what they don't know. Yeah. And that doesn't make it right by any means, but maybe that just is a little bit of what they might be thinking. I don't know.
People have to be okay with answering questions, you know,
Yeah, for sure.
and not be so offended when somebody asks you a question. I mean, if I were, you know, if I got angry about every question somebody, or a statement that someone told me, I'd probably be locked up in jail. I remember one day I was working at AT&T and I was having a conversation with a lady, and she just told me, she goes, she says, something to the fact that I speak well. And I was kind of taken back. It wasn't the first time I heard that, but at the same time, I'm just like, thank you. You know, English is my first language. Yeah, I've had a lot of practice. But you know, I think that, you know, she was a woman who lived in Green Hills was Green Hills, so probably Franklin, that area or whatever. And a lot of people who she encountered, you know, if they were a black person, probably had a little bit of maybe an inner city kind of like slang going on with their, you know, voice, and, you know, so seeing maybe a black person, she wasn't used to that, you know, someone talking proper. And you know, this is how I've been all my life. I've never talked like, you know, what's up, G, like blah blah or whatever. And so that's just one of the stereotypes that, you know, got put on me based off of different people in my other black people. Mm-hmm. And we're not all the same. You know, like, I'll bring up a very classy family who was just in the White House. You know, they are awesome. Like, they are great role models. Their children are awesome. They never did anything bad. You know, you never heard anything bad on the news about them acting up or anything like that. Like, the Obamas were a very classy family. And I felt like that did a lot for the black race, to be honest, because it says, like, man, for once, like, someone's out there to represent us in a positive way and say that, you know, we're not all thugs and gangsters and gangbangers. You know, like, we can actually live in decent neighborhoods and drive decent cars and have decent jobs. And so I really feel that in my life, just based off of what my parents told me, because they were like, you know, Kelvin, you can't let all these things get to you, and you have to kind of just let them roll off. Yeah, they're going to be there, and you're going to face these things, but, you know, they're only words. They're not going to determine your future, who you're going to be, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's what I've done. And I learned that from them and how they lived their life as well. And they've done all right for themselves. And so when they brought my brother and I up, like, we let these things, people say things, and we let them roll off. And as soon as people acknowledge that it's not really affecting me, then things just kind of stop, right? those comments stop coming. Yeah, you'll banter back and forth and you'll have a couple of jokes, and those are fine. You should be able to do that with anyone. I think that's okay, right? Just as long as you're not like pushing the limits. But you should be able to banter with your friends about, you know, whatever, it's because you're black, you know, or it's because you're white, or it's because you're whatever, you know.
Looks at me. He's like, I don't know what you are.
I don't know what you are, but yeah. So I mean, that's all fun, just as long as you know that they're fun things, and you guys can like still be friends at the
Right,
end of
people
the day.
are meaning it maliciously.
Yeah. But to say like, because of that, it's that, speaking to everyone and abroad, not just myself, but if you let these things go, and people realize and recognize that, they'll be like, that'll lead to more opportunities for you, you know, and better opportunities come a great job, or doing what you love to do, not being locked up in jail because you hit someone over these things. You know, I think a lot of my high schoolers, I was literally talking to them last night about stereotypes, because that was what our message was about, which was a good thing because we're talking about it tonight. And I was telling them, I was like, yeah, I mean, you guys can't let these things, if somebody says something terrible to you, you can't just go off and hit them. How many adults do you see out there just banging people's heads just because they said something stupid to them? Like, you guys gotta let stuff roll off your shoulder. You will have much more success in life if you just like one ear and out the other. Don't pay any attention to it. But if somebody asks you a question about something, be respectful. Don't be out of the table about it and all defensive, but tell them, you know, hey, like, I don't like what you said. Like, I know that you meant that as a joke, but, you know, I don't take it that way. No. I've had to check a couple of friends that way too. I was like, you know, that's really not okay for you to say. So I really appreciate it. I mean,
Right.
and they've like, dude, I'm sorry. Like, no, it's totally fine. Like, I get it. Like, it's a joke, but like, if I don't do it, I don't expect you to do it around me either. This is not cool. So and we move on from that point. And that's a respectful way to do
Groundbreaking.
things. Yeah.
Who knew you could do that?
Who knew?
Just be peaceful
Right?
about things
Yeah.
and not torches and pitchforks and burn the city down over it. Quickly, I wanted to ask Michael, have you dealt with anything with like your tattoos or anything like that?
Yeah.
Piercing, stereotyping with that?
I mean, the answer is yes, pretty often, but not to the extent and not in the same way. It's more. I mean, it's sad to the fact that like I have to think about if I ever want to get like what people say. What if you want to get a real job? And that's like, I have 2 real jobs, like very, very real. But it's like, and it's sad to think that just because I decided to do this, that
funny.
you know,
Yeah.
and just that, yeah, it's like, all right, I'm pretty covered. If I'm wearing shorts, even more. And people often just, you know, it's this same stupid stuff. Like, what's this gonna? Why would you make an impulse decision that's gonna look terrible years down the line? Like, you know, and it always comes back to that. What about a real job? What happens when you switch careers or anything like that? And, there have definitely been people. I mean, it's different than race, but it's also kind of the same, because there have definitely been people who don't want to deal with me because I look a certain, like, it just against that stigma. And I try to keep myself pretty like well kept, and so I, you know.
I will say, you are like one of the best dressers I know.
That's right. I did.
Right.
You see them?
Your hair is always
I
on
know.
point.
He walked in and I was like, okay, Mr. So fresh and so clean today.
Yeah, maybe you gotta match your belt to your boots. That's how you do it. No, but
I was gonna say, what do you think people think about you when they're stereotyping you for like having tattoos and piercings and whatever?
well, like that's something I don't know. So I didn't. Nobody in my family has tattoos. Extended family, like, you know, I've got something like 30 cousins on each side, aunts, uncles. Nobody has tattoos. But when I was raised, I never looked at someone with tattoos. I mean, my parents are amazing in the fact that they're literally. I did not grow up even knowing what racism was, or I mean, I don't know what you would call being against tattoos. But like not knowing that, like, out of prejudice, I guess. I just didn't grow up knowing that was really a thing. And so it's like, it's a new concept that I don't understand. And it's the reverse of like, I don't understand how someone can even think that way. Mm-hmm. Like, one, it's me getting tattoos does not affect people. I mean, it's not like well, to an extent, if I get something terrible tattooed, then it can affect. But I pretty refrain against that. And so, like, I don't know, and that's something that I would love to know. Is like why is it a big thing? And usually, I mean, that's the nice thing about living here is that Nashville is very cool about tattoos. And, but it's like I used to have a boss that would. I worked in a music store back home, and he wanted us to dress up in like suits to sell guitars, and I was like, no, but like people like, and that was one of those that I was like, people would say they're like, I'd rather buy guitars from someone who looks like you. It makes more sense to them, which is weird in itself. But it's I was like, is that a good stereotype? Like, what's up? Like, this is great. No, I don't know. I don't know what people are thinking when they look at it, because it's one of those where it's not like it's different in the way that like you're black, you're different skin color. It's not. It's completely different. It's like someone gets their ears pierced. That's like it does not make them different. So I decided to get tattoos. Why is that going to be an issue of
That's why this is a
conversation?
good conversation starter, because I feel like everybody can relate to stereotypes, because stereotypes don't necessarily just stem from race.
Exactly.
They don't stem from like just where you were born, or they just appearance, the way you do your hair, the way the clothes that you wear, where you live. Like, I mean, that's the thing.
That's like the one story that I would remember of that was I was living with my parents at the time, and I skate, and so we were living in just a neighborhood, and I got woken up at it was like 3 a.m. My dad was like, "Hey, there's some cops at the door that want to speak to you." And I was like, "All right," I don't know why. So I go up, and they're just sitting there like, "Hey, someone vandalized the community center up there, and you match the description." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, what was the description?" And they were like, he had a lot of tattoos and brown hair." And I was like,
That's me.
"Is that it?" But someone knew that I lived where I did and had tattoos, and was like,
Just assume.
just basically put a tip in that was it. And I was like,
Somebody called the hotline on you.
and they were like,
Cash reward for that.
the other thing is they could have just talked. Literally, they were like, "Where were you 2 hours ago?" And I was like, my dad was like, "He's been dead." Like literally, we've been here, and so they couldn't really do anything because there was no evidence, and luckily, but it was just one of those weird ones where it's like, really, you're gonna go off that? Like, come on.
Blas brings up a great point, and we've kind of been talking about different areas of stereotype all night. Getting stereotype from work, getting stereotype on race, getting stereotype on tattoos, and Corey touched on it briefly about sexual orientation, if you're gay. And I've had stereotypes on me about being gay, and there's a specific moment. I was back home in Minnesota, and I was out with my friends, and we were at a bar, so it's a great place to begin to get stereotyped. But this guy bumps into me very intentionally and looks at me, and he's like, "Faggot." I'm like, I looked at him and I'm like, I'm not offended by being called gay. Like, people have assumed that I've been gay just based on how I look, like how I dress, how I do my hair. So I'm used to it. But to experience the fact that someone had hatred towards me because I was potentially gay was baffling. That was the first time that someone's intentionally tried to harm me, and I looked at him and I'm like, "Dude, do we have a problem?" He went off about my appearance and how he thought it was so weird, and he wanted to go outside and fight me because he thought I was gay. And so I was like, "What?" No, this was back in Minnesota.
Yeah.
So, but that's an experience that I've had as far as stereotyping. And Blas was saying, when you experience that for the first time and having someone actually express that they have hatred towards you because of who you possibly could be, it's horrible.
Mm-hmm.
I just felt bad for that guy, because I don't know, to have that much hatred on someone just based on an assumption, it sucks.
That's where it comes back to. I just I was not raised because one of my best friends is gay, and doesn't fit any of the stereotypes of the quote unquote gay guy. Yeah. And it's you just it's weird. I would love to know what those people think, to be able to look at someone and just make that assumption in their mind,
Yeah, I mean-
I would love to know how I could look at you and just be like, oh, that guy's definitely gay.
Right. Well, and there's the first.
Right.
There's the assumption A that I'm gay, which there's nothing wrong with, but then there's the hate that comes along with that, you know? Like I have no problem with someone stereotypes me as gay, but for someone to like be hateful and do that, that's where I have a problem, you know? So like I had the conversation with him like, dude, why, like, what's your deal? Like, why are you mad at me, or why does that matter? And you know, he was just a hateful person, but
That's probably like, you're even here for wanting to talk about your feelings. Just kidding. I hope you didn't do that.
To Blas's point, I think that's why stereotyping is such a good issue to talk about, because we have experienced it in different ways. I mean, I get stereotyped as dumb all the time, or unathletic, or girly girl, or whatever. Like, one of the ones that frustrates me most is, like, I work in a client-facing role, and so I work with a lot of men, a lot of older men, a lot of really powerful men. And so it's really sad how often, like, we'll be in a business relationship, and then all of a sudden I start getting texts late at night, and they're pushing the envelope, and they're trying to flirt, and they're being inappropriate and whatever. And I got to, yeah, and I told them in my one-on-one, I was like, I usually just laugh it off, and you know, it's like, it's men, you know, it happens in business all the time, expect it. But I got to the point a few weeks ago where I was like, this is so frustrating. Like, I'm trying to be a business professional, and because of how I look, like, you think that you can you can cross a line? Like, that's ridiculous. And the sad thing is, going back to the truth to some stereotypes, is that they can get away with that with a lot of girls, because let's call a spade a spade. There are a lot of girls that are into men that have power and money, and so they can get away with that thing. But that's a stereotype that I have to press against constantly to be taken seriously as a business person, and to let men know that that's not okay. Like, just because I look a certain way, or you make this money, or you have this position, that doesn't mean that I'm interested in you beyond a business relationship. Like, so.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the thing that needs to be voiced or spoken up about a lot, though, because it was a TV episode. But it actually brought to light a lot of that stuff, too, and I didn't really think about that, because I'm not in like that kind of position where there's a lot of women that go for guys with power. But what you just said, like, kind of made me relate to that show. And she was going through the same thing. She got sexually harassed, and it was like all the men. It was in it was some kind of firm, and it was all the men's word versus hers, and they got all their stories together against hers. But she had to speak up about it, and she was the only one that's ever done it. All the other women like took a buyout or things like that, and but she was the only one that spoke up. She lost her job, but she felt so happy that she actually spoke up, and other people decided to speak up. Other women spoke up, and it made their lives a whole lot better, because they felt good and proud about what they did. And I think that's what more women should actually start doing too.
For sure. So to wrap up, what do you guys think the underlying theme is, and like how we can change stereotyping?
So I'll start. So
He's thought about this one.
no, but
Sorry.
Oh, that's a little creepy.
is that one of those businessmen?
Wow.
From accounting? So ultimately, like,
You're done.
finish
That's enough.
It's
Back at the ranch.
back at the ranch, Watertown. No. Lost all credibility. It's all about like, you got to get to know somebody, right, for who they are. Anybody can stereotype somebody just by looking at them, but really, like, we should challenge ourselves to go a step further and actually get to know that person for who they really are. One person I met, I can remember this story because it was on New Year's Eve, and Dylan brought over this buff guy to, this house party.
Who's this kid?
And
Sounds like a douche.
so your first impression as soon as he walks in is like, man, this guy's got like really tight shirt on, really tight pants. Yes, we are talking about Jordan.
I was gaining weight at the time. Okay?
But here's the deal, like, right? So, my first impression of Jordan was, man, this guy he's like loud.
He's arrogant. He's cocky. He's a meathead. You know. And like, but a very interesting person. Like, he's an interesting cat. And
Yeah.
That's it. Case in point. Mic drop.
But here's the other thing, like, you know, I wanted to, like, man, you know, although he is these things, like, there's these cue words that I picked up on that Jordan kept saying that night is, you know, we were playing a game, and he would say, man, I'm dumb. I'm stupid. And I'm just like, man, like, that really sucks that he feels that way about himself. I don't know if he's joking or if that's true. Does he really feel that way? Is that what he really thinks about himself? Does he know what God says he is?
Yeah.
You know, and so that made me want to get to know Jordan a little bit further and learn about like who he actually is as a person, because like although he is this guy that is like at that moment, you know, when he was saying these things, I saw this sensitive person that was inside that I needed to know and I wanted to dig out. And so, in getting to know Jordan, if you just like actually have a conversation with the guy and talk to him a little bit more, it's just like, okay, like the reason why, you know, Jordan is the way he is, you know, and the reason why he works out is because, you know, Jordan has a lot of insecurities, you know, and he does care about what people think about him, you know, when they make comments about maybe pictures on Instagram about his, you know, his physique or anything like that. So those fears, anxiety, faces depression, things like that, you know. And that's the reason why he goes to the gym to work out, is so he can get away with it all and clear his mind. And that's what you learn through actually having a conversation and talking to him about who he is. And that way you learn like a little bit more, right? So we're getting a little bit deeper. And then he'll open up a little bit more and he'll tell you about his daughter. And his daughter's beautiful and she has Down syndrome, you know. But she's the most beautiful thing in the world to him, you know, and us.
He's speaking facts, people.
And
I know, he loves her so much, and
big
it's
facts.
so sweet.
you know, and then you knock it down, like, so, like, he's this teddy bear father now, you know? You're so young, your father, yeah. And to a little child, I don't know how she is, what, she's 2 or 4 years old, that, you know, he's gonna get her involved in probably special needs things as she's growing up. And you know, I don't know if he'll have to take care of her for the rest of her life, but, you know, he's gonna be that guy. So, based off my initial interaction with him, and judging him based off of what he looked like, and how loud he was, and how I thought he was a meathead, I learned this amazing, beautiful person who was on the inside. That is Jordan today. And so, you know, that's
No, shut up. I wasn't gonna. No, I was like, the allergies. The season's changed just now. It's spring now. It's not talking about. Someone dropped a weight at the gym earlier, and I just thought about it at the same time that it happened.
you guys, that's the beautiful thing in it all. Like that one interaction, you know, that took a few months, right? New Year's wasn't that long ago, and you know, just that night, and just picking up on those cue things when you have a conversation with somebody, like that's the way we should treat everyone that we encounter.
He said last week, and I think he put it the best way possible, listen, don't look.
Listen, don't look. That's right.
Take it to the bank.
I think yes, we do need to ask those questions, but I also think we need to like do your own research. If you have a question about something or you don't understand something, go research it. Go ask somebody who is comfortable enough to sit there and actually have a conversation with you about the question that you have. Like whether it's a white person or I don't know. What are you? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's
I'm mixed, so I'm like everything.
She's
I'm,
racially ambiguous.
I'm Brazilian and Guyanese, but if you go back, I've got like.
That's awesome.
But yeah, like ask her questions or ask him or me. Like people who are comfortable or Corey.
Oh my God.
Or Bryce, or
Okay, y'all get the point. Just ask the questions that you have, like just so like the lady in the car that approached you, like that was very stupid of her. Let's just say that it was very stupid. I think if she would have asked those questions or did her research, she would have phrased it in a different way, because it came off all wrong, and it shouldn't have. So Yeah, that's it.
First of all, you're Hawaiian, right?
No, I'm Mexican.
Oh, you're Mexican? I thought you're from Hawaii.
His shirt says Hawaii. That's why you.
Okay.
I mean, I live there.
Did you think he was Hawaii because his shirt says Hawaii?
No, he has family in Hawaii.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
I think it'd be a good idea for her to say something.
Lauren, what do you want to say?
She said she's had a lot, but I think she's a little nervous.
Oh, really?
Oh, Lauren,
What do you got,
say something?
No, I mean, I think everyone that says anything about themselves can be stereotyped pretty quickly. But like I was gonna say when you were talking, it's not just like towards you. It's sometimes like I had an instance where someone thought that I was gonna stereotype them, so they treated me poorly because they automatically assumed I was going to stereotype them.
That's a good one.
And I was like, oh, okay. I didn't even talk to you. I didn't even move. I didn't do anything. And that woman just got so mad at me because she was black and she just assumed I was gonna be so mean to her.
Yeah, tell that story.
Well, actually, I did do something, but I did not intentionally do something. I was in car sales, and being a woman, a lot of people approach you because I'm a young woman, and they think that I have a trustworthy face. So people just approach me a lot, and she's a woman, so the likelihood of a woman approaching another woman was really high because there's only one other woman that worked on the team. And I was standing outside because it was nice outside, and it was spring. And I had like done my hair that day, and we have this is part of the story, but we had there were 4 of us standing outside, and we had an up system, so if it wasn't our turn you shouldn't like approach a customer. So I had already been up that day, so I was like at the bottom of the list, and there were 3 other people standing out there, and this woman pulled up, and I knew that she was going to try to approach me probably because the other people were guys and she was a young woman. So I was like, well, I don't want to stand on the wind anyway. I did my hair today, so I'm just going to walk inside. So like as soon as she got out of her car, I turned to walk inside so that I wouldn't be someone that she walked up to because it wasn't my turn. And the person that actually got her, they said as soon as she walked up to them, she said, what, am I not good enough for her because I'm black?
What?
And I was like, and so that guy, he's from like Nepal or something, and he was like, what about our service manager is black, or our 2 product specialists that are black, or the manager in finance that's like Latino? And he just like kind of, and she was so mean to me after that. She gave me the worst look when she walked in, and I was like, I literally didn't do a thing to you. So it's not just about like how we are stereotyped, it's just people are raised to think these things. Yeah. I've heard so many, I worked in inner city, and I've heard so many kids just like, I can't wait to get to an age where I can like have food stamps and have a baby as soon as I can because I want to get like financial aid from the government.
No
just,
way.
like,
Oh, wow.
There's so many cultural stereotypes too, but no, I mean anyone could open their mouth. Like I am a preacher's kid, and I went to a private Christian school, so automatically people are gonna assume. Like I've worked in an environment around a bunch of the entire team except for me was gay or lesbian, and they assumed things of me and were really ugly to me because they assumed because I am a Christian and I grew up in a private Christian school that I was gonna just be ugly to them and just assume all these things, and they like harassed me.
Wow.
Would do just such inappropriate things just because of who I was. So it works in reverse too. You know, I literally didn't do anything to them, and I thought I was very accepting, but you know, people just assume automatically. But I think you have to be introspective so much because there are so many things you can say that you don't realize, and people, the ways you treat people, that it's like I didn't do anything to you.
Absolutely.
So it works both ways. It's not just I haven't had like ugly things happen to me specifically. It's not because I'm, you know, I don't really have like some glaring like no one's ever thought I was gay or. But you know, it can work in reverse. People just act ugly because they assume that you're going to be ugly to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
How do you handle those situations?
Like that girl that one day, I know I have a friendly face, and I know that I'm
She
a
calls me.
person. So I took a moment and I just killed her with kindness. I was like, while you're waiting, do you want a water or tea or something? And then like. She was like wandering around, and I was like, are you looking for something? Can I find something for you? Like, I kept at it, and by the end of it, she actually smiled on her way out the door, actually, but, I just killed her with kindness. I was like, you know, I'm not that person, you don't have to act like I'm gonna treat you like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that sucks. Some people just assume that.
Yeah.
So.
I think we can try to make that the norm somewhat. I mean, in us Nash at least, like when these things happen that are not okay and people just don't understand, I think the best thing that we can do is kill them with kindness. Let it just roll off your back like water off a duck's back. Like, because I think so often now the standard that we've set, or that the media really has set, is that you need to be violent, you need to get in that person's face and tell them what's going on, and you should outlaw all those people from talking at your school because, or speaking at your school because you disagree with them, and blah, blah. Like, why does that have to be the standard? We can set a new standard for what people should really be doing, and then we'll all be a little bit more together at the end of the day. Like, I know we need to wrap up, but like, I get stereotyped so hard for being a Republican, to the point where I don't bring up my political views anywhere, anytime. If I hear people talking about something at work and I can tell they're a Democrat, I don't say anything, because I know as soon as I say something, it's gonna be, she's a racist, she's a sexist, she's a pig, she's a whatever. And like, it's so terrible that the sides have become so polarizing that we can't even have real conversations anymore without feeling like we're gonna be stereotyped. So, yeah. But I think that is maybe the answer, just to try to set that standard, set the example for how we can be.
To soften someone.
And it's just like a slogan, right? It starts with us. All right, so if we go ahead and by putting these videos out and by putting this content out, like Corey said, we're setting the standard moving forward, and hopefully everybody else just kind of follows suit, but lead by example and be that role model out there on the streets, by our reactions, by the way that we handle these things on a daily basis, and just educating people moving forward.
Right.
Yeah. Change starts with us. Check.
Awesome.
Sweet.
Well, thank you
All right.
guys.
Sorry guys, I know that ran a lot longer.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
No,